Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Menachem Creditor. It's my honor to serve as scholar in residence and rabbi for UJA Federation of New York. We bring you Torah and music, blessing and community every weekday. We've been doing so since March 18th, 2020. Today it is Monday, June 15th, 2026. That is more than 6 years and 2 months of Torah every single weekday morning with friends from all over the world coming together just to say good morning, to learn together, to enjoy spending time together, and to get ready for a good day together. So, Neil and Scott, Adele, good to see you. Penny, thanks. It's broadcast 1569. Glad you like the shirt. Linda, Boker Tov, good to see you, my friend. Lydia and Ashley, Boker Tov. Let's say a few more good mornings and then we're going to get started and we'll learn some Torah. Kathleen, nice to see you. Patricia, Boker Tov, my friend. Okay, let's take a breath, sing a bracha, learn some Torah. Here we go. Hey Barry. Hi Patricia. Hi Arlene. So good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Hope that you and yours are safe and well. And let's not get this out of the way, but let's start where we start today. We might be all over the world, but I'm in New York. Go Knicks. I am so happy. There are a lot of things happening in the world. Isn't it nice to have something to celebrate? To see New Yorkers come together and just celebrate. What a good feeling. What an incredible exemplar team of people who are not one star and that's it. It's the entire team building success, dancing silly dances, loving their parents and their children. This is what we need to see in front of us. This is what the world should have as a model. This is what can exist even in competitive systems. Kindness and sharing. And of course, there's a lot of dynamics in the game. Unbelievable wins all the way around. Go Knicks. And the city that never sleeps. I'm just changing the angle for a little bit of Facebook. It is nice to see something spectacular and to amplify that. So today's Torah is in honor of each player on the Knicks. Every single player. From a grateful New Yorker's heart and as part of a Torah community. Go Knicks. Okay. Speaking of teams, this is Parshat Korach, and this is the Torah's demonstration of when people are not team players. So I guess this is in contrast with everything I just said and everything that was part of this season, postseason, and finals. Parshat Korach is a story of a revolution, a rebellion within the community of ancient Israel, where from within Moshe's family, remember Moshe and Aaron are set up as the leaders of the community. Miriam is prophetess, Aaron as high priest, and Moses is lawgiver and conduit. Everyone has a role. Moshe is seen and is established by God as the most intimate partner in the work. In Numbers 12, just a few weeks ago, we looked at the section where Aaron and Miriam are jealous of Moses' centrality in that role, and God says, but that is how it is. Moshe has a special relationship with me. And that doesn't reduce what every other leader gets to do. And the tribe of Levi that this family comes from is responsible for the maintenance, the construction, the deconstruction, and the service in the holiest place in the camp, in the Mishkan, the tabernacle. That will continue when the temple is built in Jerusalem, then destroyed, and then rebuilt. The role of the tribe of Levi is very special. They don't inherit land because they receive support from the entire community for being in this role of leadership. Now, we've evolved a long way since then, where leadership in today's Jewish community is not based on birth, it is based on accomplishment or merit, dedication, learning, volunteerism. We're a much more democratic system, but in those days, the tribe determined the leadership role, and there was no question that Levi was the leadership. Well, in comes a cousin of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, Korach. Korach says the things to motivate people, get a rabble going, organizes effectively a rebellion against the leadership, which you would say is a rebellion against Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, but actually it's a rebellion against God's election of them, though he never says that. He makes claims like, isn't the entire community holy? It's a good bumper sticker. Who would say no to such a beautiful statement? In fact, we are told elsewhere in the Torah, be holy. So he's using language that is familiar. It's a good catchphrase. It gets people's attention. But what is he saying? What is he saying? He's saying, look at me. And in order to effectively organize, and this is true for good or for bad, it's a strategy that many campaigns, for instance, understand. You get thought leaders and business leaders, touchstones in a community, people who are familiar, people who represent things. So Korach gathers people who are the chieftains, and he gathers representatives of Reuven, the eldest child in the tribes of Israel. And what's interesting, and this is going to be our focus just for a moment, is that there are two people that Korach brings into his camp. Their names are Datan and Aviram. They're from the tribe of Reuven, and you might think of them as leaders in the community who are deserving of the attention. Now, that might have been the case, but how they are seen by later tradition is also very important. Datan and Aviram are leaders in the community by dint of what? Well, what we hear about them in Hebrew is V'Datan v'Aviram, their names, Kri'ei Moed Anshe Shem. They are called often into meeting. They're called whenever people gather, Anshe Shem. They are known. And the rabbis say about them that they were known the entire time to show up in rebellion. Pause. Hi, Moshe Tzvi. Let's go next. That's my son. He's in Tel Aviv, and he's got this jersey too. Datan and Aviram are constant fixtures in the political scene. That's another way of saying all of this. And so here's the point. Datan and Aviram are recruited by Korach to be part of this rebellion because they are rabble rousers. They are the people who get the attention, who say the outlandish things to make everyone pay attention. And you might wonder then, as others in tradition have wondered, why were they invited in the first place to other groups? Why were they fixtures in the political establishment? And I'd like us to think about this in every iteration of political gathering, be it in Israel, be it in the United States, be it anywhere. This is a story that is told in a wonderful collection. It's a pretty ultra-Orthodox collection, but it's got some gems in it. The Torah Treasury. And this is a A story that's told here, I don't have attribution, but let's use it as a story. At a rabbinic conference attended by the Chafetz Chaim, who's a leader in the Jewish ultra-Orthodox world, a motion was made to publicly condemn the leaders of a Jewish political party famous for its compromising approach regarding matters of religious commitment, meaning ultra-Orthodox Israelis were coming together and they wanted to condemn those who weren't making favorable decisions for the ultra-Orthodox community. That's certainly their right, and that's part of any platform. So the Chafetz Chaim, the religious leader of this ultra-Orthodox community, said, Datan and Aviram were among the conspirators of Korach. We know this, right? Like we just said, Datan and Aviram were Kri'ei Moed Anshe Shem. They're part of this rebellion. Why should Moses have summoned them to meetings, meaning they were already fixtures? Why were they included at the table before all this, which gave them a platform ultimately to do such wrong? He certainly remembered how they had betrayed him to Pharaoh in Egypt. And that's a midrash about Datan and Aviram being the Israelites who betrayed Moses to Pharaoh. All of this is a question. We haven't yet gotten to the answer. But again, I want to ask this question about our moment, where so often the only people that we gather with in political frameworks are the people who walk in lockstep with our opinion. How do we deal with those who are, we would call them influencers, who say outlandish things? How do we deal with this? Because that carries political weight in our world. How do we deal with the fringe positions? And the answer, said the Chafetz Chaim, is that Moses always made sure to treat them honorably, so as to restrain the worst tendencies in them. To treat the opponents honorably, to restrain the worst tendencies in them. It is one political move. It's one organizational idea, which is to say, and this is Lao Tzu in The Art of War, right? Or it might have been Machiavelli actually, in The Prince. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. But what the Chafetz Chaim does not say is enemy. Those who say outlandish things, those who live on the fringe, there is one political theory which is to keep them close. And the tension there, of course, is that if you keep the Datan and Aviram characters close, they eventually might be the ones who undermine the principles of your community. It's not to say that I know better than Moses. Of course I don't. It's not to say that I know better than the Chafetz Chaim. Of course I don't. But what do we do? And this is a question I want to ask, not to answer. I just want to ask it because it's really important. In our Jewish world, or if you're in America, in our American context, or if you're in Israel, in our homeland's context, what do you do with those who are really good at getting attention, but are obviously in it for themselves, and they will say whatever outlandish thing they must in order to get attention? How do we deal with those parts of our community? Our goal is not to create enemies. Our goal is not to divide our community, but to be true to who we think we are. How do we deal with this? It is a very big question. And I think that we're going to be grappling with this for some time. In an American Jewish context, taking fringe opinions that are antithetical to the mission of our people, fringe opinions like anti-Zionism that seek to delegitimize the state of Israel, not those who offer critical opinions about what Israel should be doing. Those are obviously within the tent. That is a vital part of who we've always been and of democracy. But the question is anti-Zionism as a fringe position within the Jewish world. I'm not talking about non-Jewish anti-Zionists. What do we do with those fringe voices within? If we include them at the table of leadership, we risk the destabilization of the community the same way that including Datan and Aviram destabilized the Israelite community, so much so that it caused terrible death and destruction to the Israelite people. And so here we are, not in the same situation, but with the same question. What do we do? I don't have a great answer, because I'm afraid of the clarity great answers brings. I don't want to have a clear answer that sounds like our story, where the earth opens up its mouth and devours the troublemakers. That's not what we should wish for. That's not the world we want to create. But the challenge right now, in a world, as Amy is saying, where social media and the algorithms of social media pushes these fringe voices to be louder, to make them feel more central, how do we respond? So let us think about both the Chafetz Chaim's answer to the question, which is trying to include them to restrain their worst impulses. That's a great idea. But if you believe that a voice is truly destructive to the welfare of the community, well, then we have to make sure that we stand up and we keep our central commitments central and heard and understood. We don't loosen the boundaries so that we won't have worse trouble later. Loosening the boundaries of core commitments is often a way not to retain strength. And so let me shift back to a place of pure positivity after having asked a very big question. And let me use the Knicks as the way to make that pivot. Among the things that are so exciting about this championship New York Knicks team is to see the humility with which they did their work, the dedication and the lack of drama within the Knicks organization. Yes, Jalen Brunson demonstrated incredible grit, and as some have suggested, including in The Athletic today, the character of a team often coalesces around its captain. And to see Jalen Brunson's tears and Karl Anthony Towns' tears, to demonstrate vulnerability and heroism, athleticism, competitiveness, and humility. These are exciting things to see. We know about Moses, not making any comparison here, that he was held aloft, and we continue to hold him aloft as the most humble of all people. In fact, in response to Korach's intense challenge, his verbose and aggressive challenge, Moshe falls to the floor, using quiet as a response to bombast. Something here deserves our attention. And what a gift it is, not only to celebrate as a New Yorker, a team I have loved my whole life, to share this with my children, like my Moshe who's here, but also to understand that what we celebrate about Moses and what we can celebrate about unique teams like a sharing championship team. Yes, there are stars who stood out, but without the contributions of every single member, this would not have happened. What a lesson for us to take away. And to bring all of these things into one sentence. Datan and Aviram were in it for themselves. Moshe Rabbeinu was not. I know that sounds like a strange contrast to make, but isn't it important for us to think about the kind of leaders we want and the voices that get our attention, and to do something about that, to make sure we stay true to our principles and our core commitments and only amplify those. So, let's be true to who we know we are called to be. And not most of all, but definitely today, go Knicks. Let's send our hearts to the east. Let's sing. Kol hon balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia Olo avda tikvateinu Hatikva bat shnot alpayim Liot am chofshi be'artzeinu Eretz Tzion v'Yerushalayim Liot am chofshi be'artzeinu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.